know that a matured individual has the moral responsibility to make choices by following his conscience. Macbeth also had the responsibility to choose. But because of his wrong choices and ruthless ambition, fueling his dark and deep desires, he does not heed to his conscience. His vaulting and soaring ambition makes him trust the witches and be swayed by his wife, to be diminished and morally ruined. Welcome back. Once again, I am here with the fifth scene of the first act of Macbeth. Scene 5 is very vital as far as characterization is concerned. As I told you in the previous scene, that scene 5 exposes the dynamics of the relationship between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Scene 5 opens in Inverness, which is Macbeth's castle, with Lady Macbeth reading a letter from her husband detailing his encounter with the witches and their prophecies. This scene gives us an insight into the inherent traits of Lady Macbeth's character, and I said it also explores the relationship between her and her husband. Lady Macbeth reads, "They met me in the day of success, and I have learnt by the perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge." Now the letter is written in prose, perhaps to distinguish it from the blank verse in iambic pentameter, which is used in most speeches by Shakespeare. He wrote in verse, but here prose has been used in order to make it sound very matter of fact and probably to highlight the ominousness that it's going to bring about in the scene. As I was saying, that the letter has been written in prose, unlike most of the speeches that are written in blank verse. One reason is the ominousness, as I mentioned, and it may also allude to the madness of heeding the witches, given the abnormality of prose in the play. So Lady Macbeth continues, and the words or phrases that are most important in this letter, let me highlight them a little to you. Macbeth considered the witches' report to be the perfectest report. This tells us about his absolute trust in whatever the witches said. It was founded on the fulfillment of the first prophecy of the witches earlier. And he also acknowledges that these witches had in them more than mortal knowledge, that the knowledge of the witches was far greater than human knowledge. It was a kind of supernatural knowledge that they possessed. He goes on, when I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished, whiles I stood wrapped in the wonder of it. Came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me and referred me to the coming on of time with Hail, King that shalt be. So, in this part, we find Macbeth's acceptance of his ambition, which is evident in the powerful verbs chosen by him. He says, I burned in desire. It was supposed to be a desire that could not be doused. It was a burning desire. It was something too great. And then he goes on to say that after making their prophecies, when the witches vanished, he stood wrapped in the wonder of it. He was thoroughly engrossed. As we know, Banquo had earlier said that he was wrapped in the thought when Ross and Lennox had entered the scene. So, the repetition of the same verb tells us that Macbeth was totally engrossed in the thought, and at that very point the king's messengers had come over and called him by the name of the Thane of Cawdor, and also he goes on to inform his wife that the witches had hailed him as the king that shalt be. This I have thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightest not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart and farewell. Macbeth cares a lot about his wife. Macbeth loves his wife, and that is what makes him deliver the entire message to his wife through this letter. And he calls her my dearest partner in greatness. Now, this phrase is very important because Macbeth wants his wife to partake, to have a share of the joy that has been promised to them, of the greatness that has been promised to both of them. He doesn't want to enjoy it all alone. He has said this because he did not want her to lose the dues of rejoicing by remaining unaware of the greatness that she had been promised. The greatness of being the queen after Duncan's death. So he completes the letter by saying, lay it to thy heart and farewell. Now here begins Lady Macbeth's soliloquy. After completing the letter, Lady Macbeth says, Glamis thou art and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. So Lady Macbeth is now certain about the certainty that her husband is the Thane of both Glamis and Cawdor, and look at her certainty and arrogance in conveying that he was going to definitely achieve what he had been promised by using a strong modal verb, shalt, that he would be what he had been promised. Unlike Macbeth's unconditional love, Lady Macbeth seems to have doubts in herself about the nature of her husband. She says, "Yet I do fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness." She is afraid that her husband is way too generous, way too kind to adopt any dire measures in order to become the king. She uses the metaphor of milk over here. Milk is supposed to be something that connotes nurturing. This phrase, "follow the milk of human kindness," is a coinage by Shakespeare. But Lady Macbeth uses the phrase in a reverse order, in a different connotation altogether. To her, the compassion evident in the metaphor is supposed to be a weakness in her husband. Being kind, being generous is a weakness according to her. To catch the easiest way, to catch the nearest way. What is the nearest way? What is it that she wants her husband to catch? Definitely the murder of Duncan. Lady Macbeth knows nothing of the obstacle posed by Malcolm. She knows nothing about the announcement made by Duncan earlier. And she also has none of the moral doubts exhibited by Macbeth in the previous scenes. She is only concerned about her husband's generosity and kindness. Now she goes on to say, "Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it." Now, she says that her husband wants to be great, and it is not that he is without ambition, but he would not like to adopt any foul means or would not like any foul play in order to achieve what he desired. And Lady Macbeth believes that ambition should be complemented by ruthlessness or evil, the illness that is lacking in Macbeth. So that illness must be present so that ambition can be achieved. "Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it," once again shows the hamartia or tragic flaw of Macbeth. That Macbeth had a vaulting ambition. That was his tragic flaw. And Lady Macbeth acknowledges that hamartia to be present in her husband. "What thou wouldst highly, that thou wouldst holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily." A chiasmus once again. The sense of inversion could complement the way Lady Macbeth feels that Macbeth wants high status, that he wants it very highly, while at the same time wishing to be moral and holy, something that she believes to be an inversion of the proper approach. As we have seen in the phrase, "the illness should attend it." So she acknowledges that Macbeth would not play false and yet would strongly win. Macbeth is not ready to get what he wants in a wrong manner. He wants to get it in a righteous way and yet would strongly win. And yet he was not averse to winning anything wrongly, to gain anything at any cost. The alliteration present in this line is not to be ignored. Would strongly is an alliteration. W alliteration recurs in these lines. Yet would strongly win. Thou'lt have great glums, and that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it. The high status referred to, of course, is the role of the king, and the holy reference may allude to the divine right of kings, a belief maintained by James I. Essentially, Macbeth wants to be the king and wants to be appointed by fate, by destiny. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. Wouldst not play false, and yet would strongly win. The contradiction in Macbeth's character is evident in these lines. Lady Macbeth asserts that Macbeth does not want to cheat, adopt any unfair means, deceive or do anything wrong, but definitely wants to win something that he does not have the right to, that is the crown. Already he cannot win the crown because Malcolm is going to be the next king. Now there is a paradoxical nature in the two clauses, wouldst not play false and yet would strongly win. These two clauses indicate that Lady Macbeth's belief that Macbeth's position is falsely naive at best. Macbeth is torn between his ambition and his morality. On one hand, he wants to win by every possible means what he desires the most, while on the other hand, his morality will not allow him to adopt any unfair means for it. So this is an acknowledgement on the part of Lady Macbeth that her husband is torn between, he is vacillating between what is right and what is wrong, what he wants and what he cannot do, what measures to be taken and what he is incapable of. Before I proceed further, I would like to draw your attention to a word. I would like you to note this word, which is called euphemism. It is a word or expression that is used in order to make something which we consider to be unpleasant or impolite acceptable and pleasant. Sometimes, instead of saying a person is dead, we choose to say he passed away. Instead of saying that a person is an idiot, we choose to say that he is a natural. These are instances of euphemism, and the word which is an antonym for euphemism is dysphemism. something that Lady Macbeth's plans will not permit. Hence, she says, "Thou'st have great glams, that which cries, thus thou must do if thou have it." So, my great Thane of Glams, if you want to have what you want, what you desire, all you need is that which cries. That over here refers to determination. You must have the determination if you wish to have what you desire, what you aspire for. And that which rather thou dost fear to do. And you seem to be afraid of committing the murder. You are afraid of it, though you want to be the king. Than wishest should be undone. So you don't wish that your sovereignty be nullified, your kingship be undone, but you definitely are afraid of the murder that must be committed if you are to achieve that sovereignty. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round. So hurry up as fast as possible, hurry up and come over to me, so that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, so that I can pour into your ears the valiance of my spirit. Here we find a curious reference to Hamlet, where Hamlet's mother, Gertrude, in a conspiracy with his uncle Claudius, had poured hemlock in the ear of Hamlet's father, the senior king of Denmark, which had caused him his death. So Lady Macbeth also wants to pour her spirit in the ear of Macbeth and chastise with valor. She wants to drive away with her valor, with the strength of her tongue, with her rebukes, with her reprimands, all that impedes thee from the golden round. Everything that stops Macbeth from getting the crown. Here she uses a metaphor for pouring spirits for her words of valor, for her words of wickedness. And chastise with the valor of my tongue that all that impedes thee from the golden round. She wants to reprimand him, to rebuke him with the valor of her tongue, in order to remove all the hurdles that stops him, that impedes him, that poses an obstacle between him and the crown. The golden round over here refers to the crown of kingship. Here there is a synecdoche that draws attention to Lady Macbeth's words conveying her bravery. Valor of my tongue. It is not her tongue that is brave, but it is her words and she herself who is brave. So tongue over here is a synecdoche. And she is worried about the characteristics of Macbeth, that they might stop Macbeth from acquiring the crown. So she wants to chastise him with the valor of her tongue. Because according to her, fate and metaphysical aid had both crowned him already as the king of Scotland. With that, Lady Macbeth ends her soliloquy. And here a messenger makes an entry. She asks him, "What is your tidings?" Messenger, "The king comes here tonight." Lady Macbeth, "Thou art mad to say it. Is not thy master with him? Who, were it so, would have informed for preparation." Lady Macbeth is unwilling to believe that the king was coming over to her castle. It was like a wish fulfillment for her. But she thought that the messenger might have gone mad, because her husband would definitely have come before the messenger to give her the news of the king's arrival. Messenger, "So please you, it is true. But our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who, almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message." He says, "Pardon me, but yes, the Thane is definitely coming over. But one of my fellow messengers rode ahead of him, and he came here absolutely breathless and panting to deliver this message to me." Lady Macbeth, "Give him tending, he brings good news." Lady Macbeth is more than pleased, more than glad. "So attend to him, he has brought good news for us." Exit messenger. "The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements." Metaphor has been used by Lady Macbeth here. The raven is a black bird. It is a bird of ill omen. It is supposed to be a harbinger of death and destruction. And the messenger over here is compared to the raven who has brought the fatal news of Duncan's arrival to her castle, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlement. Fatal entrance, why? Because she knows that Duncan's arrival to her castle would prove fatal, as he would never return from here. Look at the possessive determiner, my battlements. It is not our castle, it is not Macbeth's castle, but my castle that she refers to. She is a woman in control. She is a woman who determines everything for herself. "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty." Once again she indulges in a soliloquy. In contrast to Macbeth, Lady Macbeth's response is immediate and not checked by any guilt, any pricking of conscience, or any sense of morality. So she commands the spirits to remove from her any capacity for such kind of emotions that might stop her from achieving what she wanted. She invokes, "Come, you spirits." Invokes them. And what spirits? That tend on mortal thoughts. The spirits that attend the thoughts of murder in the human mind. The spirits that listen to the thoughts of murder. Unsex me here. She wants to be completely deprived, completely undressed of all the feminine qualities. She wants the spirits to remove the qualities of kindness, of compassion and empathy from herself. These are supposed to be the soft feminine emotions. And fill me from crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. And fill me from my head to my toe, completely with the worst kind of cruelty, with direst cruelty, with cruelty that is supposed to be evil. It is a superlative that is used by Lady Macbeth, that she wants herself to be possessed of. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse. My blood, make thick my blood. Here once again we have an allusion to the four humours that was prevalent in the time of Shakespeare. Blood was associated with affection. To thicken the blood would mean to restrict all the soft emotions like kindness, affection and so on. Now what are the four humours? The theory of four humours that this line alludes to are yellow bile, black bile, phlegm and blood. These were the humours that determined human nature. So she wants her blood to be thickened so that she did not have any kind of soft emotions, and so that it could stop up the access and passage to remorse. It would also make her relentlessly remorseless. That no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. What are the compunctious visitings of nature? The natural feelings of pity. She wanted all her natural feelings of sympathy, of mercy, of empathy to be stopped, to be completely taken away, so that she would never be deviated from her wicked purpose until she had completely achieved it. She did not want anything to keep peace between the effect and it. Effect means the outcome and it refers to the action. Here Lady Macbeth does not wish to be plagued by conscience. That may prove to be an obstacle and impediment between her purpose and the achievement of the goal. This echoes her concern that her husband is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. So to ensure that her husband's emotions did not stop them from becoming the monarchs, she wanted herself to be filled with direst cruelty. She continues, "Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall." Here, the qualities of milk, once again, especially a mother's milk, breast milk, is supposed to be nurturing an infant. She desires that the nurturing qualities of breast milk to be transformed to something as poisonous as gall, once again echoing the sentiment of unsex me. You murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Here, the strange nature of the murdering ministers or the spirits is conveyed through Lady Macbeth's use of alliteration in the words murdering ministers and consonants of sibilant sounds in sightless substances. This complements their invisibility, that these spirits are invisible to the human eyes. They are made of substances that are not visible to the mortal eyes. She calls upon the spirits with sightless substances that wait on nature's mischief. Now, what is nature's mischief? Destruction of life. The spirits that destroy life. Once again, she invokes night. Now, you will see that Lady Macbeth issues a series of commands to the spirits and now to night. Come, thick night. Night, we know, is always associated with evil. Night is the time when evils are most free. Yet it is sought by Lady Macbeth. Why? Because she seeks absolute and foul darkness, using the superlative of dunnest, the pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. Pall is a covering for a dead body or a shroud. So she wants night to cover itself up in the darkest smoke of hell. A blanket, something that provides her with a twisted comfort. She uses a metaphor over here and an apostrophe also. Come thick night is an apostrophe, and the metaphor of pall has been used over here. Metaphor which refers to a blanket, to a veil that night should cover itself up with. Why? That my keen knife see not the wound it makes, so that my knife cannot visualize the wound that it makes. Nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold, so that my action remains invisible even to the heavens. So that heaven cannot peep through the darkest night and stop me from committing the crime. The purpose of darkness in this context is twofold. The first one is it will cover up the murder, conceal the murder. Now here we find Lady Macbeth contemplating the murder of Duncan. She has already decided that she would murder Duncan. There may also be a suggestion that she fears to see the consequence of her intended action because the effect it would have upon her. The effect of this admission is mitigated by ascribing the fear to the knife itself through personification. The knife has been personified, and the second purpose is it will inhibit what she believes to be heaven's already limited power to stop her. The weakness of heaven being conveyed through the verb peep with its connotations of a short and brief glance. So heaven will not be able to peep through the blanket of darkness to stop her from committing the crime of regicide. Enter Macbeth. Great glams, worthy Cawdor, greater than both by the all hail hereafter. Lady Macbeth does not use any endearing words to welcome her husband back from the battlefield, but she addresses him by his dignities, by his honors, by his titles. She calls him great glams and worthy Cawdor. It seems to be an echo of Duncan's words from Act 1, Scene 5, my worthy Cawdor. Then she goes on to say, greater than both by the all hail hereafter. She seems to be echoing the words of the witches, all hail hereafter. The references to the words of others suggest that Lady Macbeth is citing Macbeth's letter. Lady Macbeth is essentially telling Macbeth that she has read his letter, and Shakespeare is telling his audience that Macbeth has told her everything. How the witches had addressed him, how Duncan had appreciated him, everything was detailed in the letter by Macbeth. So Lady Macbeth is certain that Macbeth was destined to become the King of Scotland. Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in instant. So your letter has carried me away, carried my thoughts away from the present moment, and I feel the glory at this very moment, the glory of the future right now. My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight. Macbeth, in contrast to Lady Macbeth's greeting to him that focused on his titles, addresses her as my love. The superlative dearest demonstrates the extent of his feelings for his wife. My dearest love. And he informs that Duncan was going to be there tonight. Lady Macbeth, and when goes he hence? Macbeth, tomorrow as he purposes. Lady Macbeth, oh, never shall sun that morrow see. And Lady Macbeth is certain that Duncan would never return from Inverness ever again. Oh, never shall sun that morrow see. Once again a sibilance, a consonance of S, that Duncan will never see the sun tomorrow. Then she turns her attention to her husband. She does not discuss the murder of Duncan with Macbeth. She declares she is certain that with her power in the relationship, she can state that Duncan would definitely be murdered before the dawn. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. Now she turns her attention to her husband. She uses an extended simile of the face as a book. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. Your face is like a mirror, and it is possible for everyone who sees your face to understand that something is unusual, something is out of the ordinary, something is strange. Then she teaches him deceit. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. So deceive Duncan by your look, deceive the people by your appearance. And in order to deceive, look like those people expect you to look. And a synthetic list conveys that all aspects of appearance and behavior must deceive. That you must bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue, your vision, your actions, and in your words. And look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. One of the most important images in the play. The simile conveys Lady Macbeth's instruction to look pleasant and innocuous whilst hiding the evil intent. Look like the innocent flower, but your actions are going to be deceitful and evil like that of a serpent. He that's coming must be provided for. And now Lady Macbeth assumes authority. So she instructs her husband to be deceitful, to behave in a manner that he will be expected to behave, and to hide his actual intentions. And then she goes on to say that the person who is coming to our castle must be provided for. Provided for and business, later on the word that she uses, refer to the management of the king's party. But given the context, it is clear that Lady Macbeth is referring to planning the murder. Look what she says. He that's coming must be provided for. Provided for in the literal sense refers to must be attended to, must be given the utmost hospitality. And you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch. She clearly states that she will have sole control of the entire night's business, that she would not allow her husband to do anything, which shall to our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. Solely sovereign sway, once again an alliteration. Complete sovereignty, complete monarchy, power and authority and masterdom. So the language is euphemistic. As I said a little earlier, provided for could refer to the management of the king's party and also to the planning of the murder. The great business may also refer to hosting the king and his company and also to the planning of Duncan's murder. And if she would be in charge of both, it would ensure that they would become the masters hereafter. While Lady Macbeth talks about kingly control and mastery, Macbeth says, we will speak further. He shows up a disturbed face, and Lady Macbeth immediately tells him, only look up clear, to alter favour ever is to fear, leave all the rest to me. Once again a rhyming couplet, only look up clear, to alter favour ever is to fear. To alter your expression, to alter your look, is to reveal that you are afraid of something. So look up clear, put up a clear expression exhibiting absolute calmness, and leave all the rest to me. She senses fear in Macbeth and assumes entire control. With that, we come to the end of scene 5. Thank you very much for staying with me, for watching this video in full. Do watch the entire video because it is very important for you to understand the characters of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth in order to be able to appreciate the further actions of the play. Thank you very much. Stay tuned, stay subscribed, and do not forget to comment if there is anything that you did not understand, or if there are any further queries that you would like to be resolved. So long for today, and do press the bell icon without fail.